Diablo, and guess what? There's no saving him. This is the franchise where even after you kill the Lord of Terror himself, it's not good enough, and you need to risk your own mortal soul to try to contain him and just fend evil off for one more day. The entirety of Diablo 2 was predicated upon being a day late and $1 short, and we basically want to encapsulate that feeling, put it in a bottle, and just create a whole world with that sense. So yeah, a day late and $1 short, and we basically want to encapsulate that feeling, put it in a bottle, and just create a whole world with that sense. So yeah,
All right, but it's not just the darkness of the previous Diablo games that's influenced us. Every Diablo game has added great new gameplay features to the series, and we're using all of these as inspiration for Diablo 4. We're taking some of our and your favorite. Let's go back a slide real quick. Go back to that campfire. There we go.
Yeah, we're not done with that slide yet.
Yeah, I still want to talk about that campfire. Back one more.
One more, please.
There we go. Back to that campfire. All right, we're taking some of our and your favorite features from past Diablo games and bringing them into Diablo 4. We've updated their design, their look, their feel, using our brand new engine and all the lessons that Blizzard has learned over the years. So nowhere is this as apparent as with our classes. So it starts with this campfire right here. This pays homage to the classic campfire from Diablo 2, and this is one of my favorite parts of the demo and the game. So John, what was your team's inspiration when, tackling the character select screen?
Yeah, I think when we started the character select, it was actually a really short conversation about what we wanted to do with that. It was like we had a few ideas, but the campfire was it spoke to us. It really showed off the new engine in a really cool way. It was really awesome to see the classes with the high fidelity that we've added into our characters with Diablo 4. Yeah, it was just so much fun.
Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love that we left a little room in there, and I also love how we don't put any text there telling you, oh, the barbarian is this and that. It's like, yep, the barbarian is the guy that broods in the corner with a bunch of swords. The druid's the guy that has some good boys hanging by him, and the sorceress conjures the campfire. It's so great.
Yeah, we wanted those classes to just be clear without any text and just it should just speak to, I think we all know who these classes are at this point, so yeah.
All right, let's take a closer look at these classes, starting with the Barbarian. All right, the Barbarian, you saw the slide a second ago. There's a reason we keep bringing this class back. So Barbarians are the embodiment of visceral, brutal combat that's just so core to Diablo. So in reimagining this class for Diablo 4, we drew upon classical Barbarian imagery as well as art from our own past. So one common theme that kept cropping up was the physicality of these warriors and how armed to the teeth they are with weaponry. Every time you take a look at a picture of a barbarian, they've got axes, swords, polearms, as many weapons as they can carry. And we really love this fantasy for this class, and with that in mind, we've added the arsenal system. So in the Barbarian, Diablo 4 will have 4 weapon slots and be able to use both one-handed and two-handed weapons in the same build. And I'm so excited about this level of customization and being able to equip 4 legendary items at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty much every barbarian's fantasy to finally see that arsenal that you're used to seeing on those classic barbarian paintings come to life.
So you'll actually be able to assign items to each skill slot to add yet another layer of customization, and depending on what skill you use, the barbarian will automatically pull out the weapon that he or she needs, so combat will continue to be seamless on the battlefield. So we're carrying forward Fury to power the aggressive, physical, fast-paced attacks of the Barbarian, but they'll also continue to pull the ancient magic of their ancestors to give them all that strength and combat on the battlefield. So let's take a look at the Barbarian in action and some art.
Yeah, I love this piece. One of my favorites.
Some of the legendary sets we've got in the works.
Yes.
With built-in blood.
This guy's ready for action.
All right, wait for it. You know what he's going to do.
Yeah! It's like almost a hammer down moment.
As a Barbarian player, I love that the team's taking some of the things that were formerly elemental magic, and now it's just more blood.
Yeah, I think this is like every barbarian painting that I grew up with come to life, where he's just wading into the crowd of enemies and just wreaking havoc.
All right, let's look at our next class.
Right, next up we have the Druid. Who, who all got to play a Druid in Diablo 2? How about any WoW Druid players? I think you guys are going to like this guy. But first, I don't know if this little tidbit I'm going to give you is going to reaffirm your faith in us or shake your faith in us, but we got something to share with you. The Druid was not part of our original lineup for Diablo 4. I know, it's my bad. That lasted about a day. Basically, one of our artists did this amazing piece of art, and then we went from like, I don't know, Druid, maybe no, we're making a Druid, 100% starting tomorrow, right now.
The power of art.
It's so great. It is a theme that the art inspires the design in this game. You see it with the Arsenal system, you see it with the Druid. So one of the things that we said is like, hey, we love the idea of the Druid. How do we move it forward? One of the things that we did is we took some of that fire magic that didn't feel like it met the fantasy of being someone in tune with nature, and we replaced it with storm magic and earth magic. And we feel pretty great about that, and we have it in the demo if you guys want to check it out. We kept his nature companions, like the wolves, the ravens, the vines, all of that. And then the thing that we feel is the kind of the special sauce is he's always been able to be this master shapeshifter. He can turn into a werebear, he can turn into a werewolf, and you know, it was pretty cool. You'd be a bear and spam shockwave. That was pretty awesome. But we decided to move that forward with Diablo 4, and now we have something we call seamless shapeshifting. What that means, if you truly want to embrace the hybrid nature of the class, you can start an attack in one form, and you'll begin animating as smooth and fluid as the Diablo 3 combat you've enjoyed so far. We're leveling that up. So mid-swing, you will transform into the correct form. So you'll press that button for a werewolf attack, you'll start animating caster form, finish it in werewolf form. If you're surrounded by enemies, you can conjure up a boulder, push those enemies away, and then turn back into a werebear and charge into them. It's really, really cool. I really hope you guys have the time to play the demo, check out the Druid. But enough of me talking, let's see that stuff in action.
That guy is not having a good day.
I love these sets.
Yeah, this was one of our first pieces we did for him when we were trying to figure out what was going to be so cool about him.
Crazy mountain man.
All right, look at those good boys.
Send your pets in, summon up some storm magic. Boom.
Yeah.
And don't worry if you've got a preferred form. You can just assign all your buttons to that form and just be a bear all the time if that's your Druid fantasy.
And of course, Cataclysm just wrecks the battlefield.
Master of nature magic right there.
Yeah. You made a good choice about that art, I guess. It worked out. All right. The Sorceress. The Sorcerer is back. How exciting is that?
Heck yes.
Yeah. She is elemental carnage on the battlefield, whether it's chilling enemies and smashing with a fireball or transforming into a chaotic ball of lightning and just completely destroying the battlefield, teleporting around and just wreaking havoc. She is an unstoppable wrecking machine, wading through the hordes of monsters with the power of elemental magic. In the dark, oppressive world of Sanctuary, the Sorcerer lights up our dungeons. Like when we say we're returning to darkness, our dungeons are really dark. And the Sorceress lights it up in an amazing, fantastic way with our new engine and our new tech. And we're going to take a look right now.
That guy's about to eat a fireball to the head.
He's definitely questioning his life choices.
Pentagrams, of course.
Yeah, that classic D2 Sorceress.
I love that in addition to bringing the light show, gameplay-wise, you feel like a dungeon boss when you play a Sorceress. She has basically control over the battlefield with abilities like Blizzard, like Firewall, that basically make you feel like you are doing area of denial attacks on enemies. It's really cool.
Super exciting. All right, so how you look in a game like Diablo as you're laying waste to the hordes of hell is pretty important, don't you think? You guys want more options for customization than you've had in the past? Of course. And we agree. And we're offering levels of customization in Diablo 4 more than we've ever had before, and allow you to make that barbarian of your dreams, that druid of your dreams. And this is just a few options that we have here today in our demo to kind of show you what appearances look like. And then these are some concepts of also where we're going with this. We really want to give you like kind of like a template, and you can build on that fantasy however you want. So if you want to customize the hair, the skin, the jewelry, the scars, the tattoos, those kinds of things. And we really wanted to, like, we have a lot of these that we're planning, and it's something we're really excited about. We think you guys will like it.
All right, but it's not just the appearance. Customization is at the core of Diablo, and what I mean by that is gameplay customization. And customization is back with a vengeance. We're bringing back some ideas and new ideas that we've become inspired from previous games. So we have super happy. We're a little nervous. They're like, they're gonna like it. Yeah. So we have a trifecta of customization options with talent trees, with skill ranks, and with rune words. Rune words especially, we've taken inspiration from Diablo 2 and given it a fresh new interpretation. You'll get to hear all about it in our systems and feature panel tomorrow, or if you check it out on the demo. But the way that it works, it's super exciting that it's no longer like a secret recipe, but a little bit more freeform with triggers and effects. We're very excited to see the combinations that you come up with, but the message that we want to bring to you today is we want you to play the build that's inside your head. Not the build that I designed for you, but the build that you want to play, because we realize that, you know, your idea of a frost sorceress might be different than mine or John's. All right. Another thing that's new to Diablo 4 is the sense of world. It's a very big difference in how we've approached it from different installments. And we're coming at it from two angles, the fantasy and the gameplay. On the fantasy side, we knew we had kind of planted these seeds of, hey, the druid, we've told you he came from Skosglen, and we had shown little corners of Sanctuary that we knew you guys wanted to explore. But then on the gameplay side, we kept making a more or less linear game with Diablo before. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And you guys kept wanting to approach it in a more open way, jumping around, killing stuff, and not following the rules. So with Reaper of Souls, we created Adventure Mode to kind of give you guys a taste of that openness. And it was really transformative. That was a moment where we learned a lot about how the game could be played, and where we saw how you guys were approaching Diablo. So based on those learnings, we are making Diablo 4 open from the ground up. We're making an open world with a non-linear campaign so that you can be in charge of how you decide to level. If you're the type of player that wants to take breaks between the story and do some of the repeatable content, explore a little bit, do side content, stuff like that, great. If you're the type of player that wants to experience the story uninterrupted, you can still do that. So not only can you customize who your character is, you can customize their experience in Sanctuary.
Yeah, the world. This is something we're so excited about. I think when the concept team got a hold of this, you know, this idea of this vast open world was really exciting, and what we would present to the players. You know, Diablo levels have always felt a little bit like, you know, corridors, or, you know, I kind of skirt around the edges and work my way in towards the middle. But there was always that border that was a little frustrating. And I think, like, for this game, you know, those borders are gone. And so on the concept team, when we were kind of imagining what this space would look like, we had to imagine what that would be. And so, you know, what if the region itself was 10 or 20 times larger than any previous Diablo region? You know, so big that mounts might actually be required to cross these distances. There's going to be 5 connected regions to explore with distinct geological and unique biomes. We will have the icy mountains of Fractured Peaks. We're really excited about this one. It's beautiful. We'll have the dark forest of Skosglen. And we're going to have the desolate grasslands of Dry Steppes. Sprawling deserts of Kyrgyzstan. Of course, we're going to go back to Kyrgyzstan. We're really excited about this. And then the foul swamps of Hawazar to explore.
Why can't they just be regular swamps?
Because they need to be foul. This is super important. Foul swamps. Sounds pretty dark, right?
So the world is also how you engage with other players in Diablo 4. So we'll have social hubs in major towns. This is one from our demo. This is Korbach. And in these towns, not only is this where you pick up quests and talk to NPCs, you can also trade, ask someone about their gear, maybe investigate their build, take a look at how they customize their character or what awesome armor they're wearing. You might even be able to look for a group. And you might be wondering, why do I want to look for a group? Well, as you're exploring the open world, you'll come across world events. And our druid here is going to come up on one in a second. And you may not want to fight these events alone because they're a little bit tougher experiences, which I think is pretty exciting. All right, I'm going to wait for this one to pop up. All right, here we go. So this was in the game trailer. This is Ashava. This is in our demo. I'm curious how many people Ashava is going to murder this weekend.
Anybody want to venture a guess? I'm guessing thousands, maybe. Everybody.
Everybody.
I like that.
Everybody
Yeah,
here, yes.
Probably everyone that plays a demo is going to die to this. So, you know, you can group up with other people. You'll be running around the world. You'll come across other players, and they'll be able to help you defeat this demon and get some awesome loot. That's why we fight demons, right? So I know what you're thinking. What if I don't really want to play with other people? Well, there will be areas of Sanctuary where players can opt into PvP, so you can just murder them instead. You'll be able to complete the entirety of Diablo 4 without ever necessarily engaging in these social activities. You can continue to crawl dungeons on your own or just form private parties of your own. But I'm really excited about what grouping and trading is going to do to the longevity of this game. And you know, the most important thing for me for playing games these days is player stories. And I have, you know, so many of my own. And I'm curious, do you have any?
I mean, yeah, I love PvP, not because I'm a great PvPer. I'm like kind of middling, but it's the sort of thing where I don't remember a lot about other games, but I remember how I lost my hardcore characters in Diablo 2. And I lost my sorceress, basically. Someone befriended me. We did bail runs for a couple hours. I'm like, this person's pretty chill. My bags were full after killing Bale, so I went to town, took the town portal back to get the rest of my loot, and I don't know how, this person must have been telepathic or something, but they went hostile right as I was loading. I loaded up to like 1 million firewalls, died in like a second. Your deeds will be remembered. And that person really enriched my online experience, I must say.
Luis, I didn't realize we'd met before.
I'm not even mad. Maybe in Diablo 4 I'll finally get revenge. So.
All right, well, John and Luis talked about this expansive open world, and there will still be waypoints to travel around because we think that's really core to the fantasy of Sanctuary. With so much world to explore, we saw the opportunity to add a new feature, and that is mounts. So we took a very Diablo approach to this feature, both thematically from a gameplay perspective. So taking a look at this concept art right here, you'll be able to swap out the armor pieces, change the saddle, change, what's another? Armor?
Horseshoes.
Horse armor, and maybe swap out that fallen head for a different trophy. And not only does this add, you know, aesthetic customization, but it also changes the gameplay. So if you're in PvP and you're running away from a sorceress that's turned hostile on you, you may want to equip some items that decrease the damage that you take on a mount, or maybe make your mount go a little bit faster so you can outrun that firewall or outrun that blizzard. And keep your ears for another day. So it's really important that mounts feel grounded in this world. Everything that we add, you'll hear us say time and time again, for this to feel like a dark, grounded world. We want these mounts to feel at home in Sanctuary. So, John, I saw that you, on your desk, you had this picture of a rainbow unicorn.
That is not true. It was on fire.
Oh.
If it was on my desk, it was
All
certainly
right,
on
that's
fire.
why there's a fire horse behind
Or
me.
dead,
All
or
right.
flayed, or something.
So we'll have demon horses, flayed horses. This horse doesn't even have a face anymore. That feels pretty at home in the world of Sanctuary. And so these are the kinds of mounts that you can expect to ride around. Because Diablo is an action RPG, we want to get you back into the action as quickly as possible, and we want to do it with some flair. So we've added dismount abilities. Each class will have class-specific abilities that fit their fantasy perfectly. So if you're a sorceress and you just want to get off your horse like normal, you can still do that. Or you can turn into an ice storm and freeze everything in your path. So let's take a look at the barbarian and the sorceress and some of their dismount abilities in action.
What do you think? Are they chasing each other or are they friends?
I think they're about to kill each other.
Probably.
All right, check this out. Combo those dismount abilities. So I guess they're friends for now.
Don't trust them.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the world above ground, but we all know that really the cool stuff in Diablo happens below ground, in dungeons. You guys want to hear about dungeons? All right, well, we've added, like we have all this cool stuff above ground, but when we say return to darkness, that is a literal truth for a lot of our dungeons, and we are crafting some of the darkest, most evil spaces that you have ever explored in a Diablo game to find epic loot. And we're gonna show some of those right now. Let's take a look. Those are your people, Luis.
I love the first time I went to a dungeon in Diablo 4 and I realized I was at home was when the corners were dark. I'm like, oh, this just feels so right in a Diablo game. Right here, this. And if you play a class that brings the light show, here's where you see it.
Yeah, for sure. When the player's in there and you have that little pool of light around you and those dark corners, it just feels like home.
And of course, we should reassure you these are fully randomized. We're building up on our know-how from D3. It's basically DRLG 2.0. Our dungeons continue to be randomized. And not only that, but we have new features that in tomorrow's panels you'll get to check out.
And also exterior dungeons as well that are randomly generated.
So there's one thing I'm not seeing here, John.
Really? Did we leave something out?
Where do we usually go in a Diablo game?
Where do you guys want to go in Diablo? Yeah, of course we're going to hell.
Handbasket.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Diablo without going to hell, right? And we're doing it, and we're really excited about it. We don't have it here today with us, but I guarantee you in the future, when you see it, we're going to really do it a very strong service, yeah.
All right, so what good would all of this world and all of these dungeons be if we didn't have cool stuff to kill? So as a former quest designer, it really excites me to do a big world RPG in the world of Diablo and finally get into the backgrounds, the backstories, and how all the pieces fit together. Like the Fallen, for example, in the demonology, how they fit in. They're at the lowest rung of basically that demonic hierarchy. All the other demons just crap on them. They get the crumbs of the human remains that are left, maybe some bones. They just take in all this insane cruelty, and then they just reflect it back into the world. That's why you have like fallen lunatics that are just ready to blow up, and like these wicked weapons with spikes, and they just look like cruel, miserable creatures. But it all comes from them taking all this cruelty in. So, let's think that.
You're kind of making me feel bad for the Fallen. I want to kill these guys and take their stuff.
Well, hopefully not too bad, but think about that next time you're killing Bish Bosh or Rakanishu. But it's not just the iconic and genre-defining monsters of Diablo, like the Fallen. We also...
Yeah, we got some new stuff.
We got lots of new stuff, because we're exploring parts of the world that we've never been to. So here's just one example, one taste. This is the Drowned. They are undead that comes from the oceans. They're linked to ancient maritime curses and stuff like that. So as we move forward, we're going to keep exploring these families and how they fit into the world and how they work together as a family. So they have mechanics where they amp each other up and they're bigger than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, I love the Drowned. Seeing them come out of the coastline, which you'll see in today's demo, is really striking.
All right, and then what good would all these monsters be if they weren't dropping awesome stuff? So items are one of the most important elements of Diablo, if not the most important. We're really leaning into legendaries as opening up build possibilities. We realize that with D3, we maybe emphasize sets a little bit too much, and we want to make sure that we leave room for legendaries moving forward so that we have build variety and that we don't overstep on that customization. Sets will continue to be there, but they won't dominate. Even non-legendary affixes will also lean into customization. We will have affixes that will improve your skill ranks, and we'll have affixes that will improve your passive talent ranks. And we hope that will further differentiate your build from my build. And then, great. Well, and then also, we're just building in our tools, our pipelines, and our know-how, and we're bringing even more legendaries than ever to the table.
Yeah, we're making so many legendaries, and these are just a few of them here. And actually, you're going to get to see some of them at the show today, which is pretty cool.
Super excited. That spiked one right there is my favorite.
How are you supposed to hold that?
You bleed.
It looks like it'd give you tetanus.
All right, so there is much, much more to come. A game of this scope takes time. This is a very, very early first step. We're not coming out soon, not even Blizzard soon. We're just excited to take this first early step in the journey together with you. We have a demo ready for you guys to play back there. We have 3 classes, our first 3 classes. We're going to have 5 when we ship. We also have 3 dungeons, lots of events, including the world event that Tiffany described, and a very small sliver of Scotland, which in itself is just a small region of the world. Please give us feedback. We want to hear what you liked, what you didn't like. Again, this is just the first step in the journey. And then if you can't be here, if you're watching over the internet at home, we have streams both days. We've partnered, We've partnered with streamers where you can go experience the demo vicariously. And then we also have a website live with info. And we're on the hook now with you guys to update that website on a quarterly basis with a weblog to keep you up to date as to how we're going in the development.
All right, so yeah, right? That's super exciting. All right, so we have so many things for you to see at the show. Luis talked a lot about the demo. I'm going to talk about the stuff beyond the demo. It's crazy. So there is literally a 12-foot tall Lilith in the front of Hall D.
I can see her.
Yeah, I know. I can literally see her from here. It's absolutely crazy.
Right there.
Built by the incredible Steve Wang and his incredible team. We have a slightly smaller version of Lilith, crafted by our very talented sculptors, which you will also see at the show. We have brought artifacts from the world of Diablo on display at the Dark Gallery. The Dark Gallery is kind of a first time of doing something like this. We've brought a piece of Sanctuary here, filled it with artifacts. Some of them are made by our team. We've had some other people chip in, and it's really something pretty extraordinary, and we're excited for you to see it. We also have the artist Brahm here, who created the cover to Diablo 2, yeah, is that right? And did many beautiful paintings for Diablo 3. And he was also, basically, he'll be here signing prints. He painted Lilith, that'll be in the Dark Gallery. So yeah, please stop by, get a poster signed, nerd out with us about all the things that we're going to be doing in the future, and share your stories.
All right, I got to give one more plug to the Dark Gallery. It's like a really messed up museum. There's also a cultist sacrifice going on in there, so if you're really big on taking photos, you can go get sacrificed on an altar. So just a suggestion, if you have some free time, go into the Dark Gallery, check out some art, maybe get sacrificed.
Yeah, that guy's terrifying.
Yeah.
Send that picture to your friends and relatives, freak them out a little bit.
Yeah, you came to BlizzCon and you got sacrificed. It's, true Diablo fans.
All right, we touched on a lot of things today really briefly, but you can find out way more at our other panels this weekend for Diablo 4. So starting off tomorrow morning, there will be a live art demonstration from Diablo 4 artists if you're interested in seeing how we create character assets for the game. So that's over in the Dark Moon Fair, and that's at 10 a.m. on the Epic stage. If you're interested in learning more about the systems and features, because we just touched really lightly on them this morning, if you're interested in learning about the classes, the skills, monsters and bosses, dungeons, items, check out that systems and features panel tomorrow right here on this stage at 12:15. If you're interested in learning more about the world that we're building and all the characters and where they're going and how we even got here, check out the World and Lore panel, also on this stage tomorrow afternoon at 3:15, and learn more from our World and Lore team. And last but not least, all this beautiful art. If you want to take a look at that, and listen to a multidisciplinary discussion on our approach for returning to darkness in Diablo, come to the art panel with John and some artists.
That's going to be so much fun.
Awesome artists. On the legendary stage tomorrow afternoon at 4:15. So these 3 latter panels will have Q&A. So we would love to hear your questions and answer them. We're actually, you can actually submit a question physically here over at the demo station. There's a little box. You can write your question on a card and drop it into that box. Or if you're watching online, you can tweet at us at hashtag D4QA. We'll be going through those questions, picking the best ones, and answering those in our panels.
Don't be afraid to ask hard questions. I know there's a lot of speculation that like we won't. We'll take them. So give us some hard questions. All right. So, like we mentioned at the beginning, this is a stacked BlizzCon. What do the airlines say? We realize you had a choice of demos and presentations. We're really, really happy that you came to see us and hear what we had to show you, to say and show you. So thank you. We three represent a very, very passionate team. And we want you to know that like we have our team staffing the area, the demo area, and the dark gallery. That you'll see us wearing the blue shirts. Please stop by, talk to them, let them know what you liked, what you didn't like. Share your Diablo stories. Ask them what their favorite class is. Maybe you let them know what classes or you like and don't like. We're just super excited to just nerd out with us and finally be able to share what we've been working on with you guys. So on behalf of the entire Diablo team, once again, thank you all, and we'll see you in hell.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending Diablo 4 Unveiled. Coming up, Overwatch, what's next? Welcome to Overwatch. What's next?
What's up, everyone? Long time no see. So I'm Jeff.
And I'm Aaron.
So Aaron's very humble. So how many WoW fans are here today?
Oh my God.
Okay. I'm not making this up. You can watch this on YouTube. Aaron is the gentleman who made Stormwind, Orgrimmar, Thunderbluff, Ironforge, Darnassus for World of Warcraft. And for those of you who are Overwatch fans, what is the best map in Overwatch? Aaron made King's Row. Okay.
Thank you for all of that.
And
That's not embarrassing at all.
No, not embarrassing at all. And he prefers to be called Aaron. And everyone's been pronouncing it wrong all these years. Aaron,
Ask my mom. Yeah. Okay.
So, Overwatch 2, we're talking about it in detail now.
I'm so excited to talk to all of you about Overwatch 2. We said it in opening ceremonies. It's so hard not to be able to talk about it with friends and family and actually use the name Overwatch 2. But here we go.
There it is.
You want to start with push?
You start. You kick it off.
Okay, so we've built a lot of game modes for Overwatch over the years. Things like Junkenstein's or Capture the Flag or Lucio Ball. But those have always been featured in the arcade. Push is the first game mode that we've released since launch that is what we call a core game mode. And a core game mode is something that you will be able to play in quick play. It's something that you'll play in competitive. And it's also something that the Overwatch League is going to play. Let's take a look at a video that kind of goes into it in a little more detail.
Cool. Yeah, let's check it out.
Okay, so the push map that we're showing today takes place in Toronto, Canada. Yes. The objective of push is for both teams to escort a robot into enemy territory. The team that pushes it the furthest before time expires wins the match. That's the robot.
Who is ready to push? I am.
As you stand near the robot, it will start moving towards the enemy's base.
Until May gets conked.
Yeah, exactly. As the robot moves, it pushes a barricade marker further into enemy territory. The further the marker goes, the higher your team's score gets. As it hits a checkpoint, your team will unlock a forward spawn
This
point.
looks like a nice spot.
He's a little itchy.
Yeah, I love this guy. As he's pushing the barricade marker, the robot moves slower.
Okay, other
But
direction.
when he's not pushing the marker, he moves a lot faster. This allows teams to make up lost ground really quickly in the mode. Okay, so
Moving the barricade.
May needs to escort the robot further into enemy territory than Brigitte's team did. And if she can escort it all the way till the end of the map, it'll result in an instant victory for her and her team. Like this.
Victory.
Yeah, I would say so far internally, we don't have a lot of the maps go all the way to the end, which is a good thing. Most
Yeah.
of the maps are like more back and forth.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the design values that we had for push is it's more interesting to have that robot move back and forth across the map. And if you look at the map, you can see that it's mirrored. The geometry is mirrored from one side to the other. It's a symmetrical map. And the game mode itself is a symmetrical game mode. What that means is each team has the same objective that they need to accomplish in order to win the match. This is similar to something like Control. Control, both teams are vying for one control point in the middle of the map. What I think is really cool about Push, though, is as the robot moves back and forth across the map, the team fights that are everything in these symmetrical modes happen all across the map, in contrast to Control, where a lot of them happen at the control point in the middle of the map. if you look at this next shot, you can see that the path that winds its way through Toronto in this map is really windy. That red line illustrates the path that the robot takes through Toronto. What this means is that there's a lot of different shortcuts and connections in order to connect different parts of the path. This makes the game mode really flanky. And heroes that you might not see in some of our other game modes, or you might not see as prominently, such as Reaper and Tracer, are really, really powerful in this game mode. Internally in our testing, we typically use different comps in Push than we do in all the other game modes. And I can't wait for you guys to play it. You can play it on the show floor today and see what sort of team compositions you guys create.
Cool. Let's take a look at Toronto a little bit. Why don't we talk about some of our values from a world building standpoint?
Yeah, so when we build maps, we always like to take players on a journey all across the world. And we like to visit unique and exciting and exotic locations. And when we build them, we try to make them fit the ideal or the fantasy of what we've always imagined that place in the world to be. With Toronto, it's the red maple trees, it's ice rinks, a curling arena, a statue of a hockey player.
Tons of hockey. Very multicultural. So Toronto was a blast to work on. But what's very exciting for our players to know is that there's going to be all new PvP maps, not just for Push, which will have multiple new maps with it. It won't just be Toronto. But every current core game mode in Overwatch is going to get Overwatch 2 maps.
Yeah, we'll get multiple maps for every game mode. And I think this is so exciting because the game, when Overwatch 2 launches, it's going to feel like such a new experience. I know we're going to talk a lot about the cooperative missions up here, but even on the PvP side of the game, having a bunch of new maps to play on is going to make this feel like a totally new experience for Overwatch 2 players.
Yeah, let's check it out. We've got some footage here now. I have to warn everybody, all of this is work in progress. We are hard at work on Overwatch 2 right now. So none of the maps that you're seeing are finished. Not even Toronto, not even Rio out on the show floor today. None of them are finished. They're all going to be that much cooler when we're done. We're also looking forward to getting a lot of play testing, a lot of feedback, but you can see some of the locations that we're really excited to explore. And many of these maps we've been playing for a while now and having a really good time.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about making maps for the Overwatch universe is that a lot of the people on our team come from locations all across the world. So we have people from Brazil working on a Rio de Janeiro map, people from Sweden working on Gothenburg, people from Toronto actually working on Toronto, and they're able to bring all of their love and passion and experience in these places to bear when they're actually building the map.
Yeah. So we know that you all love new maps. There are a lot of new maps coming with Overwatch 2, a lot of new locations, places that you want to see, like Gothenburg. There's a couple of heroes from Gothenburg we think would be really cool. But it's time to talk about story missions. So story has been requested from us a lot. Like, we get a lot of comments. And we think it's awesome. Like, you have all followed the story so far. You've been following it for some time, and you're ready for more. And we are ready to deliver. Now, I'm going to do a quick recap on like where the story's at right now. So obviously, this is since the original game. The original game started with Overwatch being shut down. Overwatch was this international peacekeeping force. The UN issued this thing called the Petraeus Act, and that shut Overwatch down. Then, because of the absence of Overwatch and the heroism that they brought to the world, new threats were able to arise, and all sorts of bad stuff started to happen. There was the uprising in London. There was Talon. Like, Talon really became much more of a threat and gained in power in this sort of new vacuum that we had. But our good buddy Winston had the idea to initiate the recall. And what the recall is about is he knows it's illegal to reach out to all of the Overwatch agents, the former Overwatch agents, and basically say to them, hey, it's time to get back together. Like, now's the time. The world needs us now more than ever. So then we had a series of animated shorts, and it was really fun to explore these and kind of go on this journey to see how different heroes reacted to the recall. There was, for example, in Honor and Glory, Reinhardt, in the most steadfast way, said, I must answer the call, while Brigitte was sort of begging him not to at a certain point. Whereas Mei, who was working at Eco Point Antarctica, she wasn't necessarily a hero. She was more of just a scientist at the time. But Winston's recall really inspired her into heroism, which was great. And then there was that last BlizzCon we showed Reunion with McCree. And McCree's very strange reaction. Like, okay, Winston called me back, but I'm going to bring Echo back instead.
Yeah. McCree kind of pieced out at that moment.
Yeah.
Who knows where the guy went, what he's doing around the world, but I have a feeling we'll be seeing more of him.
We might see more of McCree. I didn't see him in Zero Hour. The name of the movie we showed today, by the way, is Zero Hour, the Paris attacks. So I didn't see him there. So I'm wondering what's up with McCree. So Zero Hour, that brings us up to today. So Paris is under attack. It's Null Sector again, but it's not the Null Sector from back in King's Row. This is an all-out attack on the entire world. The good news is, joining Winston in Paris were some of the members of Overwatch. Some responded to the call. They're back. They're ready for action. But the world is attacked, and the world is under strife, and you, as a player, are going to get to take the place of our heroes and see what the next chapter holds for Overwatch. So we really hope you play that demo today. It will show you just kicking off where we're at. Now, the coolest part about getting to do story missions is something that we hear often from you is that you love our cinematics. Thank you. They're made by a group called Story and Franchise Development. We get to work with some of the most talented animators, producers, directors. We're really, really lucky to work with them. Every one of our story missions will get a cinematic introduction, and we'll get a cinematic outro. So you'll experience that. You'll see that in the Rio de Janeiro demo that we have. Now, I've got to give a warning to everybody. The outro is a placeholder for the actual movie. So I will just say this. I'm going to give a spoiler right
Oh, no.
here. So at the very end, what's May's famous line at the very end? Lucio! Lucio doesn't actually die. So, okay. That's all you need to know. But we're excited for the cinematic storytelling that we get to do. You finally get to spend a lot of time with these heroes. So in a story mission, it's very curated by us. Like, we get to pick which heroes you're going to play in a story mission because we're trying to tell a particular story. So in Rio, for example, we've got Mei, we've got Reinhardt, Lucio, and Tracer. Those are the heroes that you can adventure with.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about story missions, and even with hero missions, all of the cooperative gameplay that we're trying to do, is one of our goals is to bring a lot of the fast-paced action that you get in Overwatch PvP, where you're using all of your heroes' abilities, your comboing abilities with other heroes. You have a lot of strategic decisions that you make with your teammates. We're trying to bring that to the PvE side of the game, or the side where you play versus AI. And it's difficult to do because of the fast-paced nature of it. So that cinematic storytelling that Jeff was just talking about, that gives us the freedom to create more of those spaces. We can pull the story out to the cinematics and allow the gameplay to really flow as you're playing through any of the missions.
So one thing that we're experimenting with, because Overwatch 2 still has a ways to go. It's a game that's actively in development. We're working extremely hard on it right now. One of the experiments that we're doing right now is we're trying to give you some choice in what hero you can play in these story missions. And I don't mean like choice between the 4 heroes. What I mean is, for example, in Rio, both Mercy and Genji are present on the mission as well. Wouldn't it be cool in this mission if you had a choice not only between, you know, Reinhardt, Tracer, Lucio, Mei, but also like maybe if I wanted to play Mercy instead or Genji. So we're trying that out right now. Like obviously it doesn't work for all heroes because like Roadhog wouldn't make a lot of sense helping the team out in Rio. But we'll see how that goes. We'll keep you guys updated. I think it could be pretty cool. Now, another new development that you'll experience when you play the demo today is that we've added an item system to the story missions. Now, this is not an item system. It's not like Diablo where like loot's going to be popping out of robots and we're all looking at the ground, picking up gold and that kind of thing. And it's not like WoW where we're waiting for the boss at the end of the mission and we're going to kill it and then Aaron's going to roll on my drop. But it's the item system, I would say, is more equivalent to what you see in like a battle royale game. If you guys have played like Apex Legends or PUBG, it's a temporary item pickup that you have for the length of that mission, and you'll find these at different moments throughout the mission. And they have different abilities. So we're looking at here as a healing station that's actually of epic quality. So there's different quality levels to them too. But like Aaron might prefer the corrosive grenade.
Yeah, if let's say you're playing Lucio, you might not want to pick up the healing station. You're already healing everybody in your party. So something like the corrosive grenade, which helps you deal extra damage to enemies, is a really good choice.
Another item that we added was this thing called the barrier fence. This is like a cylindrical barrier, kind of similar to how Winston's work. You drop it down, it sits in place. This one's been super awesome. Like if your group's having a lot of trouble and people need to be revived, you can drop the barrier fence down and it gives you an opportunity to revive them. So we hope that the item system adds some variety to the story missions and also lets you accommodate for the type of player you are and gives you some options when you're playing the missions.
Yep.
There's also in the Rio demo, there's a very rare item, kind of, I want to say hidden, but it's not really hidden.
You're giving it all away.
I'm giving it all away, but see if you can get it. Okay, cool.
Okay, so hero missions. While story missions are really designed to take players through a story experience, hero missions are designed to be deeply replayable. I think one of the great things about Blizzard games are that we make lifestyle games. And what I mean by that is we make games that you can play as your main game or you can play as your only game. I think that hero missions fit into the role where you can play them night after night, week after week, and year after year. This is really the long tail.
Decade after decade.
Was I getting a little too dramatic with that? Okay, I do that sometimes. You know, so like one of the analogies that we use internally for hero missions is they're our equivalent to adventure mode in Diablo or world quests in World of Warcraft. So it's something that we really want you to be able to sink a lot of time into. And we'll get into progression a little bit later, but it really dovetails with the hero progression in Overwatch 2. Those two systems rely on each other, and they kind of play with each other back and forth. Now, I think that for hero missions, there's a lot of different things that make them replayable and give them the variety that you need to be able to play them for a long period of time. And one of those is varied locations. And what I mean by this is that hero missions will take place all across the globe in new levels that are coming to Overwatch 2, and in all of the levels that we've already built for Overwatch 1. You'll be able to play hero missions in all of those.
So another cool variable that you'll have with hero missions that will keep it fresh and new is that the objectives will keep changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you could do all sorts of different objectives in hero missions. We want them to feel kind of fresh and new each time you go into one of them. So one hero mission might be surviving a holdout in Winston's lab in Gibraltar, or another one might be taking out a null sector behemoth in Route 66. And so we'll have you going through a lot of different locations, doing a lot of different objectives, and the third piece to them is the hero roster that you'll be able to pick from. So in story missions, we're trying to tell a very specific narrative, and we need there to be certain heroes there. And like Jeff said earlier, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for Widowmaker and Tracer to go out on a story mission together. But in hero mode, we want you to be able to pick from all of the different heroes that are available.
Yeah, we feel like hero choice is extremely important. One of the things that in general, both story missions and hero missions, we're really excited for is the promise of Overwatch is that there's these 31 amazing heroes for us to play with. But the reality for a lot of us is I might be good with about 4 of them. And if I care about my SR at all, I maybe only play like 4 or 5 heroes, even though I really would love to explore this hero roster. The good news is we feel like in the PvE side of the game, you will really get a lot of exploration through the heroes. And I think hero missions in particular will feel great to play and level up different heroes.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of reasons to pick from different heroes here. As Jeff mentioned, and if you're playing competitive, you might want to stick to just a few. But as you're going on different hero missions, you might want to pick a particular hero because you think it's really good for a certain objective type. Bastion and Reinhardt work really, really well in holdouts, you know? You might also be picking a hero because as we get into the progression system, you'll see you might want to start leveling up a hero because you're really excited about a particular build that you might be able to get for that hero.
I can't wait to talk about the progression system. But before we do, there's one more part of what's going to keep the hero missions fresh and keep them interesting, and that's different enemy groups.
Yeah, so well, you'll be able to play against a lot of different enemy groups in hero missions for Overwatch 2. You saw Null Sector in 0 Hour, the cinematic that we showed during opening ceremonies. There's also Talon. Talon has obviously been a force for evil in the Overwatch universe, and I hope that we can see more of them in Overwatch 2 and kind of see what they're up to. And then beyond those two, you know, there's other things. There's other threats that are out there in the Overwatch universe, and I'm hoping that we can see
I think everyone could imagine some amazing enemy groups that they'd love to fight against in Overwatch 2, and we're going to make them. All right, so the progression system. This is really exciting. Now, I have to caveat this a bit. As I mentioned, Overwatch 2 is still in development. We have a long ways to go before this game is fully ready. So we're only showing you kind of a part of the progression system right now. And it's also likely that progression could change a lot from now and the time that the game is released. You need a lot of iteration, a lot of play testing on this type of system. But we wanted to share parts of it with you. So by no means is this comprehensive. This isn't the only ideas that we have. This is sort of the tip of the iceberg. And it will give you a sense of the direction that we're exploring right now. So an interesting thing to talk about is the talent system. So we had originally designed the talent system for hero missions, not story missions. But as we were approaching BlizzCon this year, we knew that we were going to show a story mission, and we didn't have any progression stuff to show. And we thought it was super fun. So we actually hooked up the talent system from hero missions into the story experience. And there was like a funny side effect of that where many members of the Overwatch team were like, actually, this is really awesome and super fun, and I hope we figure out a way to keep talents in the story missions eventually when they happen. So I don't know if that's going to be the case by the time the game launches, but for now you can see Tracer has a level. She can level up, and at different levels she gets different selection of talents. And these talents do different things. They definitely have player power involved. That's the goal. We want you to feel more powerful. Now, I know a lot of people raised an eyebrow when I said that. Any sort of talents or progression or anything like that is not going to come into the competitive part of the game. We're not going to make it so my Tracer is more powerful than your Tracer. Well, mine is, but anybody else's Tracer is more powerful. We want to keep it a fair playing field. But like we always say, when it comes to PvE, the robots don't post on the forums.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We can make it unfair. You know,
it could be OP, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of values that we're trying to adhere to as we design the progression system. As Jeff said earlier, like one of those is to make your heroes feel more powerful. You'll become more powerful. You'll be doing more damage as you progress through this system. But that's not all. We want you to feel more versatile. We want you to be able to put together a build for your hero that fits your particular play style. And we also just want your hero to be able to feel different from other people's heroes as well.
So I think adaptive reload is a great example of a talent. I'm not sure if you all can read adaptive reload, but the gist of it is whenever Tracer does an ability like blink or recall, her pistols reload automatically. And like this is a talent that speaks to you and your play style.
Yeah, so I pick adaptive reload a lot because every time you use any ability, she gets a full clip again. And so if you use this correctly and you kind of play Tracer with the right cadence, you never run out of ammo. You always have it, and it just feels so powerful.
Now, other players don't have an issue with Tracer's reload cadence. It feels natural to them. They're used to it.
Is there like a problem with the way that I?
No,
okay.
no, it's okay. The world needs you too, Aaron. But
God.
you know, some other players might want to take an ability like chain reaction, which is a little bit more powerful, but centered more around her ultimate. And this one, I think the video just shows it best, and it sort of speaks for itself. So we can check it out here in action. So yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Imagine that in PvP. That would team kill. Yeah.
12,000
So,
IQ.
obviously, we think that would be awesome. Now, let's show you some other talents that are work in progress, but we think are cool.
Yeah, this one is super exciting. So this
Any
is
Hanzo mains out there? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Jiro's guidance. This is any arrow that hits an enemy detected by sonic arrow will seek and pierce all other detected enemies. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but you can see it in the video here.
The talent speaks for itself. So, and this one is cool too because Sonic Arrow is useful in PvE, but nowhere to the degree that it is in the competitive side of the game. So this adds a lot of usefulness to it on the PvE side of the game.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys can start using your imagination for the different types of things that we'll be able to do with talents here and how you'll be able to use some of them to kind of combo into other abilities.
So,
oh gosh.
Oh yeah, here it comes. This one is called Epic Enter. Did I say it wrong?
No, that was
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. Oh, Epicenter. Okay. As many of you know, Reinhardt's Earthshatter ability is a cone-based ability.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if it worked in 365 degrees.
Yeah.
360 degrees. Because 365 degrees would be breaking mathematics.
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually think what this one does is it makes a bicycle magically appear.
Wow, and it did make a bicycle magically appear. So really fun for you, Reinhardt.
Where does it come
Yeah,
from?
where does it? I think it makes a robot transform into a bicycle. Yeah. Aaron and I have watched this like 500 times, and it doesn't get old.
Not at all.
So this one was in the gameplay movie. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, okay. So this is a cryo freeze ability, and when it ends, it'll instantly freeze all nearby enemies. And if any of you are Mei players, you'll kind of, yes,
Hey.
you'll know that like coming out of cryo freeze is kind of a scary moment where all the enemies are just kind of waiting there to blast you. And so this talent kind of takes care of that.
Yeah, so it gives her a lot of utility, and it adds to the defensive nature of the ability. Obviously, in the competitive side of the game, this would be my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Speaking,
Oh,
okay,
Yes.
this is the best.
I love this one. I hope you guys really like this one. Snowball effect. Internally, we just call this bowling for robots.
Yeah. You can't let the hamster have all the fun.
No.
Yeah. Let's see it one more time. Okay, awesome. So this is another ability that you saw in the gameplay trailer earlier today. The reason I like this one, I don't know if anybody plays Genji like I do, but when I play Genji and I press my ultimate ability button, usually there's no one anywhere near me. And I'm standing there and my dash is on cooldown and I just kind of feel stupid. And then like I go back and I watch those YouTubes and I'm like, how do they do it?
Need healing.
Yeah, exactly. But this ability is made for someone like me.
The dragon becomes me.
So he actually gets to shoot out a projectile from his sword. So it gives a lot of extra ability. You know, you could really tune Genji to your play style and really adjust it. So one of the cool things is, like, imagine if we started to combine talents. Like, it's not like the heroes are just going to have one talent. They're going to have a bunch of talents they can pick from and create builds.
Yeah, and so this is an example of two talents at the same time. The first one is Torbjorn turning his turret into a flamethrower rather than a minigun. And then the second turret allows him to place 3 mini turrets instead of 1 large turret.
So this is the kind of combination we're really hoping to see out of the PvE side of the game.
This poor last robot.
Yeah,
I
he
feel
took it
so
all.
bad for him.
Just like a fire hose to the face. Okay, one more time.
Aren't fire hoses water?
That was a terrible analogy. I already said there's 365 degrees. I used the water hose analogy for the flamethrower. Okay, awesome. Now, another huge part of Overwatch 2 is all of the upgrades coming to the engine. I've seen some confusion. I see people keep calling it a new engine. It is a greatly upgraded version of the engine, but it is not a new engine. I think that's important to point out. There's a panel tomorrow where John LaFleur, who's our tech director, Arnold Sang, who's our assistant art director, and Bill Petrus, who is our art director, they're going to tell you all in depth about the upgraded hero visuals and the massive upgrades coming to the Overwatch 2 engine. But for now, we wanted to share with you guys some of the idea of why do we want to do upgrades to the hero visuals. Obviously, there's some part of it where it's a brand new game. We want it to have a new look. We want it to feel fresh and awesome, and you know, just really, really overwhelm you with how beautiful the game could be. But we also wanted to show some passage of time as well. Like, we were doing a lot of storytelling in this game, and we want to show the journey of the heroes. A good analogy that I like to use when talking about how and why we decided to upgrade the hero visuals is Batman. So, you know, Batman has existed really over the decades. There's been, you know, early comic book Batman from the original comic. There was the 60s live action TV show, Batman. There was the 80s, yeah, Adam West, yeah, it's awesome. There's the 80s Tim Burton movie, Batman. There was the Christopher Nolan Batman. But all of those versions of Batman was instantly recognizable. Every time you saw him, you'd never mistook him for another superhero. They were all iconic, but they were all different from one another. And that's been sort of our guiding vision for updating the hero look. So, like, we can take a look at Genji right now. There's classic Genji and Overwatch 2 Genji. And Overwatch 2 Genji, obviously there's a lot of visual upgrades that happen to him. But from a story perspective, you see that he's kind of at a different point in his journey as well, as you saw in Zero Hour. So here's a sneak peek. I don't think anybody's seen Torbjorn or Bastion's new looks yet.
Miraculously.
The internet was lazy this week and left these for Friday. I don't know why. It's so boring. But these are kind of cool. Like, you want to talk about Torb and Bastion a little bit?
Yeah, so I love it. So this kind of this look that they have, it kind of pairs Torbjorn and Bastion up with each other. So Bastion is now in the story living with Torbjorn. So some of the upgrades that he's getting are from Torbjorn himself. And if you look, he's actually wearing one of Torbjorn's favorite hats. You know, he needs to keep the sun out of his eyes or the rain off his head or something like that.
Totally need that as a robot. Cool. So this is actually rendered in the Overwatch 2 engine. These are the actual character models. And, you know, obviously they all have the new looks here, but other things that's going on here is we have a completely new way of doing eyes in the game. We have a new way of rendering hair, skin. All of these things are focuses of our art team and our graphics engine team right now to just make the characters look amazing and beautiful. And when you play Overwatch 2, you'll see we spend a lot of time bringing the characters even closer to the camera because we're really proud at how they're looking right now.
Yeah, so much of Overwatch is just about the heroes. Like, we love the heroes in the world of Overwatch. I hope that all of you guys love the heroes in the world of Overwatch. And yes,
Thank you.
We just want to be able to get up closer to them. We want you guys to be able to see them in more detail. And so we're putting all this time and energy into it. And with this new game, with Overwatch 2, we have a big story that we want to tell too. So the engine needs all these upgrades. The map that you guys can play on the show floor, Rio de Janeiro, it's twice the size of any map that we've ever made for the game. And the guts of the engine have just had to get upgraded in order for us to be able to deliver all of this story to you guys.
So the hero visuals and the map stuff, like Aaron's talking about, is not the only new changes to the game. We've also completely upgraded the HUD. So you're seeing that here. We're trying, the goal with the HUD is to get it out of your way. So you're not thinking about it. It's more something that you feel, and intuitively it gives you the information you need. Now, I know you are all going to be very opinionated about the HUD. The good news is we are still early in development, and every single hero in both the Rio demo and the Toronto demo has a new HUD. So you can give us feedback on all of them, and we have time to make tweaks and adjustments. This was done by an artist named Jason Kirby, who works on our team, who did the new HUD. One of the things I love the most is the new Mercy UI.
Yeah, I love it. You can see the Pharah portrait down there. You see who she's healing with the health around it. You can also see there's new hit markers around the reticle. We have new edge of screen effects. We take this part of the game really, really serious. Overwatch PvP is all about split-second decisions, really fast reads, and the HUD gives you a lot of information. So like Jeff said, we are looking at this really carefully. If you guys have feedback on it, we'd love to hear it. We have time to make it better, and we're going to do everything we can to do that.
Yeah, and it's not just the HUD. Every screen of interface is updated in Overwatch 2. So your menus, how you browse the hero gallery, it's a completely brand new game with a completely new interface, and that's, I think, very important. I think a lot of us, have decided, there's certain things like player icons could use some help when finding the one you want. We're upgrading all of those elements. There's even things, some of you will notice this when you play Toronto, there's even a new announcer. And I'd be curious if you recognize who the voice is of that new announcer.
So mysterious.
Yeah, that's a big, big hint right there. So cool. Aaron, when we say Overwatch is all about one thing, what is always the answer?
Heroes.
Heroes. So Overwatch 2 will obviously come with brand new heroes. Now, what's important to us with the Overwatch 2 heroes is not only do they fit gameplay roles that are very important to the game right now, things that we feel that the game needs, but also that the hero's story is centered in the story of Overwatch 2. So Sojourn is coming to Overwatch 2. She's our first Canadian hero. Yeah, I should say second Canadian hero.
That's true.
Because the first is Arnold Sang, our assistant art director, and we love him dearly. But Sojourn will be the second one coming. Sojourn is right at the center of the story of Overwatch 2. So we hope you liked her in Storm Rising. You're going to get to spend a lot more time with her when it comes to Overwatch 2. And she is by far not the only character coming to Overwatch 2. There are a few heroes that will all come at once. I don't know how many of you remember, but there was, way back in the beta, we added
Oh boy.
D.Va, Mei, and Genji all at the same time. And it was probably the most beautiful chaos I've ever seen in a video game. Well, maybe the Encourage Gate opening. That was some good video game chaos. But Overwatch 2 is going to really add some mix-ups to the meta, introduce, we think, characters that you're going to love, characters that you've been waiting for. So something we're very, very excited for, new heroes coming to Overwatch 2. Now, I want to touch on this again. I mentioned opening ceremonies, and between opening ceremonies and the panel, I've been spending time reading people's reaction, and there seems like there's so much confusion about what does redefining a sequel mean. So I'm going to try to put it in a different way this time. Imagine we're coming up with a brand new game that we're dying to make, and it's called Overwatch 2, and we start to think of the feature list that we want. We want brand new heroes. We want all new PvP maps, like a whole roster, equivalent to what we did in the first game of PvP maps. We want to have story missions, hero missions. We're going to add progression. We're adding talents. We're upgrading the engine. We're adding new looks to all the characters. We're like, that sounds like an amazing sequel to us. Does it sound like one to you? Okay. Now, you all know what the video game industry does. And you are the most powerful people in the video game industry. It is not us. It is you. You have more of a say than anybody else. And how many times imagine your favorite game. It could, let's say it's a game that has, I don't know, Space Marine in it, that has PvP and PvE and has a story, and you want to play Space Marine number 3 because you've been playing Space Marine number 2, and the day that comes out, you lose all your stuff, and then your buddy, because his grandma didn't buy it for him for Christmas, is playing Space Marine 2, and you're playing Space Marine 3.
And you don't get to play together.
You don't get to play together. And all the stuff that I earned in Space Marine 2 doesn't come with me. We think that sucks. We don't think that should be rewarded by you, the most important people in the game industry. So we wanted to make it so that every one of the new PvP maps that's coming to Overwatch 2, every one of the new heroes that's coming to Overwatch 2, and new heroes beyond that will go to the players, our dedicated fans who have been with us for all these years from the original game. We think that's important. We also feel like it's important for all that hard work that you've done. The Baptiste vampire skin you all just earned last week. Do you want it to go away? No. We want it to come with us. So that's what we mean by redefining a sequel. I know there's a lot of confusion. I actually think it's really simple. The game is a big game. It is a true sequel in all of its features and everything it does. We just don't want to be jerks about all of our loyal players who might be wondering if they should get the game or not. That's the idea.
That's great.
So I know there's some unanswered questions. So I want to touch on this real quick. We never said, where are you going to play this game? No one ever asked. It's coming to, obviously, Battle.net on the PC platform, the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. So every single platform we support today will be supported for Overwatch 2. But I have a phone! I totally didn't hear what you said at all. So, also, I know the other big question is like, well, when do we get it? What's the date on this thing? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, just let us make it great. Like, that's what we care about more than anything. We don't have a date in mind. We are going to work so hard. Like, today is the most important day in Overwatch 2's development because I feel like to this point, it's been just our small team. And today's the day that we bring you, the big team, into it. And what do you want out of the game? You're going to all go, you're going to play the demo, you're going to post feedback, you're going to talk to us here today. We want to hear from you what needs to change, what features are we missing, what's going to be cool, what isn't cool. So I don't have a date.
No, and I mean, we love this game so much, and we just want you guys to love it too, the same way that we do.
So we're probably going to go dark after BlizzCon. I know there's going to be a million questions, and people are going to want to hear, okay, like reveal another hero, or show me, like, have you ever wondered what Moira's new look might be? Yeah, it's amazing,
It's so
by the way. But God, we're just jerks.
We are.
We're jerks right now.
It feels so good.
There's still some cool stuff coming. There's still some cool stuff. But we're going to be quiet. We are going to be quiet. We have a lot of work to do. The team is focused on Overwatch 2. That doesn't mean we are leaving the live service behind. There are still some cool updates coming. We want to add new stuff. Now, I want to get this out there right away. We are not adding a new Archives event to Archives this year because we are focused on Overwatch 2. We feel like that's the better storytelling experience. We are still going to run the Archives event. There will be new skins. There's going to be new cosmetic content. There are also other awesome features coming to the live game that we think you should be excited about. Coming very soon, you are going to get to select what you do when you are waiting for roll queue to kick in. So if you'd like to go to the training room, we're going to let you do that. If you would like to play a new deathmatch mode that we're adding just for waiting, you can play that. If you would like to go to custom game and/or workshop and play whatever the hell you want, you can do that very soon. So there are lots of cool updates coming to the original game. But please bear with us while we focus on Overwatch 2. We want to make it amazing for all of you.
Yep.
Thank you all so much. We know how many cool things there are at BlizzCon for you to check out. The fact that so many people came here today to spend time with me and Aaron, it means the world to us.
Aaron.
Aaron. And please go play the demo. Go have fun and see our art panel tomorrow.
Thank you, BlizzCon.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending Overwatch What's Next. Coming up, World of Warcraft, What's Next?
It's good to see you again. Pull up a chair by the hearth.
are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tomb, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There's surely scorching deserts, adventure, monster narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna say, oh,
Welcome to World of Warcraft. What's next?
BlizzCon. Hello once again. It's been so long. All right. I love you all too. This is the best. Shadowlands. Like Diablo 4, we can finally say it out loud. And this is the time to tell you a bit more about where we're going and what is next in World of Warcraft. So, last time on World of Warcraft, this happened. The sky shattered, and we are left staring across the veil between life and death into a small piece of the Shadowlands. Well, what does that mean for us exactly? So this panel is going to be a little bit different from some of the past expansion What's Next panels, because this isn't one of those expansions where it's like, okay, we are getting on a ship and sailing off to this new continent that's part of Azeroth that map makers have mysteriously ignored for the last 10 years. We are going to another plane of existence, effectively. We are going to the realm of death, to the afterlife. And so I need to also lay out some of the ground rules for how this whole place works, so bear with me, and then we'll put it all together at the end. There's a couple things where I'm going to gloss over some details because we have a deep dive panel tomorrow where a few of my colleagues are going to go much more in depth on some of the features and systems. Anyway, let's get going. So, for the lore nerds out in the crowd, you may recognize this, the Warcraft cosmology, which lays out the 6 primal forces that define the Warcraft universe. We have light and shadow, order and disorder, and yes, life and death. And so where and what is the Shadowlands? It's right there. It's been right there in front of us this whole time, just on the edge of reality, separated from us by this veil that has shattered. And that's where we're going. So to kick things off, let's talk about some light topics like what happens to us after we die. In Azeroth or other worlds of Warcraft, anyway. So when death comes, a soul crosses between life and death. Spirit Healer makes that determination, and a winged bearer comes to bring the soul into the Shadowlands. And souls come before a mysterious entity, an ancient entity known only as the Arbiter. The Arbiter, since time immemorial, has functioned in this capacity. And when that soul comes before her, in a fraction of a second, every one of the contents of that soul is laid bare before her. All the deeds, the misdeeds, the thoughts, the aspirations, the triumphs, and the failures are felt, absorbed, and understood by the Arbiter. And the Arbiter sends that soul off to a destination realm, to one of the infinite realms of the Shadowlands, each one of which is ruled over by a powerful covenant, a ruling force within the Shadowlands. Also, and this will matter more in a second, but each soul brings with it a powerful source of energy known as anima. This is a vital force that is the product of all of that soul's experiences, all that they have done in life. Great souls, whether for good or for evil, have a lot of anima, and ones who've lived smaller, more humble lives have less. But folks like Varian, Garrosh, certainly Arthas, the former Lich King, they had a ton. And anima is the mana. It is ironically, the lifeblood of the Shadowlands. In this land of death, it's the force that makes the trees here grow and rivers flow. It's the source that's drawn upon to conduct the magic of death, and much more. And that's going to be essential to understanding this world. So as I mentioned, the Shadowlands has infinite realms, but our journey initially will focus on a few of them. We see Revendreth, Ardenweald, Bastion, and Maldraxxus as 4 major realms. Oribos, a city which stands in the center of it all, and this mysterious region known only as the Maw. Let's start talking about them. So first off, Bastion. Now, for each of these zones, I'm going to start by showing a piece of our internal concept art that helped define the look and the feel of the zone, and then we'll see how that turned into reality within the game. So this piece, which I'm sure you're all seeing for the very first time ever as an exclusive part of BlizzCon, reflects our artist's early take on the splendor of Bastion. Bastion is ruled over by the Kyrian Covenant. Now, the Kyrian are the forebears of the Valkyr and the Spirit Healers and more. The Kyrian are ordered and purposeful, and the souls that find their way here, that are sent here by the Arbiter, are ones that had some natural calling in life to service in one form or another. But they don't come here fully ready to assume their ascended role as a Kyrian. Souls come with burdens, and a lot of what goes on in Bastion is meditation, reflection, understanding self through combat and other means to shed those burdens and be ready to ascend to an eternity of service in the afterlife as a Valkyr or a Spirit Healer or one of a couple of other paths. An example of a soul that might be familiar to us who ended up in Bastion is Uther, the Lightbringer. And we will be encountering him, among others, in our journey through Bastion. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, Bastion is the zone that's playable here on the show floor today. So here is a look at some of the environments of Bastion, glowing, resplendent, very much distant from the dark and dreary images that might have been conjured up when you first heard the words Shadowlands. Because the land of death is not all darkness. There's a distinction there. Next, a bit of a darker place, the zone of Maldraxxus. So Maldraxxus, as initially defined in this concept, is ruled over by the Necrolord Covenant, and it reflects the heart of the Shadowlands' military might. The souls here defend the Shadowlands from external forces and wage war on the enemies of death. These are the forces that were called upon by the Lich King, by his servants Kel'Thuzad and others, and we've seen a piece of that. Now, while at a glance, okay, undead, rot, decay, this seems like, okay, these are all evil guys. That's not necessarily what Maldraxxus is about. While this power certainly can be used for evil, at its core really is more about just a relentless spirit, unyielding search and pursuit of power, strength, inward and outward. And an example of a soul that ended up in Maldraxxus is actually the warlord Draka, mother of Thrall, who, while certainly not an evil, wicked soul, was one who would never kneel, never bow before another. And she has actually ascended to a position of some prominence within Maldraxxus, as we will discover when we journey there. Let's take a look at how this is coming together. Now, if you think of Legion as the old Burning Crusade look and feel dialed up to 11, Maldraxxus is very much Eastern Plaguelands, the Scourge, and more, taken to the nth degree. This is the source of that power, and much more. Next, Ardenweald. Ardenweald is an enchanted fairy forest, and that was what we were setting out to create, and this concept by our environment team really helped define that look and the general vibe that we were going for. Now, Ardenweald is ruled over by the Night Fae, and we are familiar with the Emerald Dream, those of you who are druids, maybe more so than most. And if we think of the Emerald Dream as a reflection of the spring and the summer, part of nature's cycle, Ardenweald reflects autumn and winter. It's a place of rest, yes, of death, but also of preparation for eventual rebirth. Because the journey into the Shadowlands isn't necessarily a one-way journey. And spirits of nature are the ones who are called powerfully to Ardenweald, and most of them come here to rest and to prepare to serve the wilds once more. An example of a powerful, well-known soul who ended up in Ardenweald is actually the demigod Cenarius. When he fell before the axes of Grommash Hellscream and his band of fel-infused orcs, his soul passed into Ardenweald, where he rested and recovered and returned to serve the wilds in a time of need during the events of the Cataclysm. So here's a look at how that general, those concepts have been translated into in-world environments. As you look up in Ardenweald, you're looking at the underside of canopies of magical ancient trees that almost look like staring up at the night sky. But there are also some parts of Ardenweald that aren't faring quite as well, that also reflect some sorts of powers that we may have seen recently, especially for those of you who are playing Alliance in Battle for Azeroth, because Ardenweald is also deeply connected to the Drust, who come from the Land of Death. Fourth up, Revendreth. Revendreth is awesome. It's basically just a creepy Gothic zone, miasma, soaring castles, villages in their shadow, and terrors and horrors lurking around every corner. Revendreth is ruled over by the Venthyr. This is our fourth major covenant. And Revendreth, unlike the other realms, maybe isn't the place that you would want to go or hope to go as a soul passing into the Shadowlands. The souls that the Arbiter has sent to Revendreth over the years tend to be the ones that have some flaw, whether it's pride or some other problem that's kind of blocking them, that's hindering their ability to serve the Shadowlands in one of the other known paths. And they come to Revendreth to atone, to do penance for their misdeeds, and potentially to be redeemed, and to move on to one of the other realms, or perhaps not. Revendreth is not a particularly fun place to be, but it's an essential part of the engine of death that is the Shadowlands. An example of a soul that came here, and whom we will encounter in our journeys, is none other than Kael'thas Sunstrider. Who, after a setback or two, found his way to this dark land. So here we see, just sort of a look at the landscape, the silhouette of the spires that define the environment. This is one of my favorite zones. I can't wait to explore it. I can't wait for all of you to check it out. There are also parts of Revendreth where the light has actually broken through the clouds and seared the earth, and some are actually caged up here because exposure to the light does horrible, horrible things to many of the souls of this land. Okay, so I've used the word covenant a whole lot. What is a covenant? So a covenant is the ruling power of the Shadowlands. There are four major ones we're going to be encountering: the Kyrians in Bastion, the Necrolords in Maldraxxus, the Night Fae of Ardenweald, and the Venthyr of Revendreth, as described. Covenants are also really the #1 major feature of Shadowlands. I think in Battle for Azeroth, we had a few different smaller features. We had islands, we had the Heart of Azeroth, we had warfronts. Covenants are more like a garrison or an artifact in the sense of being what we call internally a build-around feature. They're integrated into every aspect of the game, and they're an essential part of your journey, your progression, your power, and more. Each of these covenants, as you encounter them in your journeys, will seek your aid, because you are a powerful, mighty hero who comes with some unique abilities, seeing as you actually are tethered to the land of the living, and you are coming alive from Azeroth, which we'll get to in a second. And of course, in exchange for this, each one of them offers access to their power and a variety of rewards. And so each of you will have to make a fateful choice. Which covenant will you join? Let's take a look at what that will mean for you. So a covenant entails multiple things. First off, each covenant has its own large narrative endgame arc. So in Battle for Azeroth, we had the Horde War campaign and the Alliance War campaign. In Shadowlands, we have 4 of those. Each one opens up at max level, depending on your choice, and will lead you through the world in different ways as you unravel the mysteries of the Shadowlands, but do so in pursuit of your Covenant's goals and working to empower them and thus yourself. Each Covenant also brings with it 2 active abilities. One of these is class-specific. It's a combat ability that will change your moment-to-moment gameplay. The other one is a universal ability that all members of that Covenant will share. And if you check out the demo here today for Bastion, you can see the Kyrian abilities for any given class and mess around with them. Next, Covenants bring with them an endgame progression system. There's a ritual known as Soul Binding, where as a member of a covenant, you can bond your soul to a powerful denizen of the Shadowlands, enhancing your abilities, unlocking new ones, and having a ton of customization there. At a glance, I know this sounds like, okay, this is the artifact system, this is the Heart of Azeroth for this expansion. In some ways, it builds upon lessons learned from both of those. First and foremost, there is no artifact power to grind. This is not a... Yeah. Because honestly, like, that was an essential starting point for us when designing the system. I think one of the lessons we learned from Legion onwards is there is something great about having endgame goals and customization and things to work towards, and to not just have the things that modify your character come to a screeching halt when you hit max level. The flip side is, despite systems of diminishing returns and the other things we had in place in Legion and BFA, there's no question that there are social pressures. There are things that make it feel bad to play alts, where if you're not doing X amount of things every week, you feel like you're falling behind. You're letting your team down, or you're letting your own characters down. We want to have a world where you can have goals to work towards, customization, differentiation, without the grind. More details on this to come. We're going to be talking more about covenants in our deep dive panel tomorrow, but that's an essential piece of this. And of course, alongside the power, there's also a wide array of cosmetic rewards that each covenant has. You saw some of the armor sets in the expansion trailer, and there's a whole lot more beyond that. Each covenant also has a home base, effectively, a sanctum. This is a cross in some ways between the Legion class hall, but also the general feeling that you might have had back in Legion playing through Suramar and restoring Shala-Ran and building it up from this dingy, dusty, dark hole in the ground into a base with a teleportation network and allies that you'd recruited. And as you work to restore your Covenant's power, you will benefit from that, but you'll also be making choices along the way. Let's take a look at some of these rewards. So, if you join the Kyrian, let's say you're a warrior, this might be the plate set of armor that you can earn, a mount that you can earn, the active ability that all Kyrian warriors will have, Spear of Bastion. If you joined the Venthyr or you joined the Night Fae, you would have a different ability there. And Unburden, a utility movement ability that all members of the Kyrian Covenant will have. With Covenant rewards, we're also looking at exploring some new cosmetic options. Recently we've seen a couple of fun cloak replacements in the form of a backpack or totems on the Tauren Heritage armor. We want to do more with that, to really change your silhouette. So, different Covenants So yeah, each Covenant will offer a set of cloak replacements or back attachments. So whether you want, a halo or a pair of wings, or depending on the different Covenants that you're joining, a different aesthetic entirely, you can pick the one that best suits you. Okay, so Covenants. Taking a step back, let's get back to the world for a moment. So I mentioned the 4 zones, each of which has a Covenant, and at the center of it all rests Oribos. Oribos is a city that, again, predates memory. It is of an unknown construction, and it is the home of the Arbiter, this powerful, mysterious being that really fuels the machine that is the Shadowlands. And that has drawn to it, over the millennia, all manner of beings across the Shadowlands, and even some from other dimensions. Brokers and soul traders come here to wheel and deal. The politics of this entire dimension center on this bustling city at the heart of the Shadowlands. And this will also serve as our sanctuary city, our main player hub in our adventures through the Shadowlands. Khadgar wanted to bring Dalaran through, but we figured there was already a city there, not needed. Last zone, this mysterious place known as the Maw. So, to our knowledge anyway, there is no Covenant. But our knowledge is very, very limited about this place. You see, the Maw is a swirling vortex of darkness. It's almost like a black hole. And precious few souls over the eons, the Arbiter would send directly into the Maw. Those were seen as the most tainted, the most irredeemable, the darkest, most dangerous souls that were consigned to the Maw, as much for their own potential punishment as to protect the Shadowlands from what they could otherwise bring with them. Thus, the Maw is a mystery to even the natives of the Shadowlands, even the ancient ones. It's known to have, through whispers, a ruler known only as the Jailer. But the Jailer is almost like the boogeyman of the Shadowlands, right? It's the whispered figure of children's tales that, oh, you know, the big bad Jailer is going to get you locked away in the Maw. But basically, nothing is known because nothing has ever escaped the Maw. Journeying into the Maw is one way. Of course, we're going to have to go there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you this. But that's how it's going to work. OK, so what I just described is how the machinery of death has functioned throughout World of Warcraft's history, throughout the universe's history. But that's not how it's working right now. Death itself is broken. Instead of coming before the Arbiter and filtering out all the realms of the Shadowlands, all souls that have shuffled off this mortal coil in recent years have been pulled inexorably directly into the Maw, strengthening it, causing it to grow, to swell like a tremendous maelstrom. That also means that the other realms of the Shadowlands are starved of this essential force, anima, that souls bring with them. There's a drought afflicting the entire Shadowlands. The Shadowlands are withering as the Maw grows. Now, what is Sylvanas' role in all of this, you may wonder? Because she, after all, is the one who set these events in motion. And I know Sylvanas has been an enigma to many for a long time. She, at times, can be an inspiring figure, but then at other times, especially recently, it has seemed like her actions were calculated to cause the maximum All right. So yeah, slightly contentious issues here. At times, and recently, it seemed like her actions were calculated to cause the maximum amount of death possible. What if they were? And who is this mysterious figure that we saw briefly a glimpse of in the expansion trailer earlier today? It's not Arthas. Arthas is dead. I'm sorry. But this is the mysterious Jailer inside the Maw. And this is not Sylvanas' master. She doesn't have a master. She is above that. She is beyond that. But this is a power with whom she is in league. They are partners with a common end that we will discover in time. And many have wondered, how has Sylvanas grown so powerful in recent years? How did she go from a mighty Dark Ranger, but one who had to flee the Lich King back in Wrath of the Lich King when you confronted them in the dungeon, to one who could stand up, smite Saurfang, and face off against Bolvar? It's because through her allegiance to one of these Lords of Death, as the power of death has been growing, as the power of the Maw and the Jailer have been growing, so too have her own powers. And that is a taste of the power that she's drawn upon, and that's part of what awaits us. Okay, now putting this all together. So, expansion launches. Just before the expansion launches, we have pre-patch events, as we enjoy having, to get people up to speed, get you caught up, maybe help leveling some alts here and there. This time around, as we've said, and as we've been told by Taranis, the Helm of Domination worn by the Lich King was essential to keep the undead of Azeroth in check, to keep them under control. Well, without it, what are they doing? They're rampaging across the world. And so there's sort of a Scourge Invasion 2.0 that we're cooking up that will set the stage for the journey that awaits us. So in the weeks leading up to Shadowlands, as the heroes of Azeroth fight to defend their homes and families and friends from the rampaging undead, they will also muster their forces to make for Icecrown and try to attack the source of this evil where it began. A key leader in this is actually going to be Bolvar himself. He did not die. He was defeated. But he actually offers us some unique insight into this situation, because he actually, more than any other being, has 1 foot in each realm and understands them both. When he was seared by the dragon fire of Alexstrasza, he was infused with the power and the energy of life. That's what was able to allow him to keep the powers of the undead at bay as he wore this helm. But having worn the helm, he has seen into the other world and understands what awaits us. And he and his Death Knights can also help us cross over into that world to understand what's going on there and to have a chance at saving our own. And so we will make for Icecrown, we will cross over, and we will end up in the Maw, because that's where everything that goes into the Shadowlands is going. And our journey ends there. It's a really short expansion. Now, that obviously not. So we, heroes of Azeroth, with a unique bond to the world soul of Azeroth herself, find ourselves uniquely able to escape the Maw. Not all who come with us will be able to escape. Some of our friends and great champions of Azeroth will be trapped behind. But we escape, and we move on to Oribos, where we begin to learn about the nature of this new world and set out to level up through 4 zones, in order: Bastion, Maldraxxus, Ardenweald, and Revendreth. So unlike the last couple of expansions, we want to get back to having a strong narrative arc that can span multiple zones. And so all people entering the Shadowlands will go on this journey. As you do this, you're going to work with each zone's powers, with each zone's covenant. As you earn their trust initially, they'll let you borrow their powers, so you can actually play with the active abilities that you'll have down the line. You get a sense of what your covenant's ethos is, their aesthetic. And all this is as you're learning about the world, as you are trying to understand the foes that face you and defeat them, you're also getting prepared for a fateful choice. Which covenant do you want to join? Because that's the big choice that awaits you at max level. All of them. Exactly. You will choose one of them. And after joining that covenant, you have its powers permanently, your covenant campaign begins, and you move into the endgame. Now, that's how it's going to go your first time through. But what about alts, you may ask? So one of the big things that we got out of non-linear leveling in Legion and BFA was flexibility when you're leveling your alts. You can have a different journey on one character versus another. But what we lost was the ability to tell a single, strong narrative story. We want to get the best of both worlds this time around. And so on your alts, once you have one character that's made it through this journey a single time, we want to say, well, we know, breaking the fourth wall for a second, that you as a player, you understand how the world works. We don't need to teach you how covenants work. We don't need to teach you about the Shadowlands. So let's just let you pick a covenant right away, if that's what you want to do. And so you'll have access to their powers permanently. And on an alt, you can level up through any of the zones in any order that you want. You can do the narrative campaign, if that's what you want to do, or you could go to Revendreth first, or you could spam dungeons, or battlegrounds, or whatever. Endgame systems like World Quests will also be available. Ultimately, it's about giving the maximum number of options. And finally, you're welcome. And finally, I think one of the questions we ask ourselves is like, well, obviously, one of the things we see with people playing alts is there's a sense of wanting to rush through to get to the end game as quickly as possible. And why is that? And it's not just a WoW issue. It's something that happens in many other games, too. A lot of the time, once you've been to endgame, you realize that a lot of things before then don't matter. And so why spend your time on things that don't matter when you should rush and get to the things that do? Well, why does it have to be that way? What if you could begin progressing on your various endgame systems, unlocking powers with your soulbinds and more as you're leveling up? So of course you're still, getting your levels, progressing through that story, getting your character stronger, but the progression that you earn will matter at endgame, and you'll be meaningfully ahead of where you were when you first hit max level on your first character. Okay, so back to our max level experience. So we've seen a glimpse of the Maw when we first arrived in the Shadowlands, and then we'll probably visit it a couple more times over the course of level up, learning a little bit more about it since we have this unique power to go in and out. But at max level, what is the Maw? So the Maw is terrible. It's a fearsome, terrifying place. But we've been to those before. We go to those all the time, right? Like we literally, not too long ago, we were fighting on the homeworld of the Burning Legion in the shadow of their great fortress. And coincidentally, we always manage to find a friendly innkeeper who will sell us water and let us bind our hearthstones. Doesn't matter how evil the place is, there's always that guy with the hearthstone. Not here. We've really set out in the Maw, in the outdoor space, to build an environment that matches the fantasy of the space. Where when you go in here, you'll have to have your wits about you, because it's a place that wants to kill you at every corner. There are definitely some lessons drawn from revisiting classic spawning and things along those lines. And it's a chance for us to explore some new types of outdoor world gameplay. We're going to have a lot more to say about this at our deep dive panel tomorrow, but I just wanted to tee it up. This is a place that you'll be going to only at max level, and you'll be delving in here to uncover the mysteries of Sylvanas, the Jailer, and much more. At the center of the Maw is this mysterious place called Torghast, Tower of the Damned. Yes, this is the tower that you saw sticking out of the sky above Icecrown Citadel. What does that mean in gameplay terms? I would call this our second major feature after Covenants. Because Torghast is a bit different from anything we've seen before. What Torghast is effectively an endless dungeon. It's ever-changing and defies the laws of reality in a lot of ways. Crafting Torghast, we looked for inspiration to a lot of our favorite roguelike games. And well, what does that mean? It means an environment that changes each time you come there. When we create this experience, we want it to be one that you can enter solo or with friends. If you want a sense of endgame progression that is meaningful and challenging, that doesn't require bringing a group with you, Torghast is there for you. Of course, if you want to bring your friends with you, don't say no, you can do that too. As you ascend the tower on visits that will change from run to run, from visit to visit, you can earn permanent upgrades that you can take out with you, but also, on the course of your visit, you'll be able to absorb powerful concentrations of anima that massively change and enhance your powers. Because this is one of the other really fun parts of roguelike gameplay. It allows us to offer huge upgrades, transformative things that make each visit different from the next. You can play to your strength, shore up your weaknesses, and much more. This is the thing we're going to talk a lot more about tomorrow, just teeing it up here. But just a random example of a choice that you may be faced with early on in your journey into Torghast. Let's say you're playing a shaman. You get a source of upgrades. Do you want some, passive damage and healing, which of course everyone wants, or a permanent transformative upgrade to one of your abilities that will last throughout the rest of your journey? A different journey might offer different options and different upgrades. None is going to be quite like the others. The interior of Torghast definitely calls upon the architecture that we saw in Icecrown Citadel and elsewhere, though as you ascend to the higher reaches of the tower, who knows what you're going to find. In addition to Torghast, we have 8 dungeons on offer, 4 for level up, 1 in each zone. Each of these dungeons, of course, comes with the normal modes, Heroic, Mythic, Mythic Plus, with all new affixes coming for each season in Shadowlands, and 4 max level dungeons. One of my favorites I want to call out here is this dungeon called The Other Side, or The Other Side in Ardenweald, which is a pocket dimension home to none other than everyone's favorite Loa, Bwonsamdi. So he's been quite the trickster, and we've never really known exactly whose side he's on or what he's up to, who he serves. And this is going to give us a chance to explore that. It's a great opportunity to revisit one of our favorite characters coming out of Battle for Azeroth, and of course, he is rooted in the Shadowlands. We also have a 10-boss raid at launch called Castle Nathria. This was a super fun project for our dungeon team and our encounter designers. Like, the ask was literally just build Dracula's castle, make it a raid. It's kind of writes itself. It's going to be pretty awesome. Here's an early layout as we're starting to figure out how it's going to flow. You'll come in the main front door of the castle for once you're not coming in through the sewer. And it's a winged raid, so you'll have a choice of descending into the catacombs or exploring the royal quarters, each of which have 3 more bosses. Once you've cleared both of those wings, the upper reaches of the castle will become available as you ascend to the upper spire to face the lord of the castle himself. Okay, so talked a lot about content. Let's talk a little bit about systems. Again, I'm going to touch on some things briefly here that we're going to get into greater detail about tomorrow with the deep dive. But first off, as we've thought about all of these things, our core philosophy, a central pillar, has been we want to increase player agency. We want to give all of you a feeling of more control over your destiny, whether that's in how you play your class, whether that's in how you chase the rewards that you want. We've heard a lot of your feedback. We've been hearing this for a while, and it hasn't fallen on deaf ears, I promise. I want to give a few examples of how this philosophy is influencing some of our decisions, and we'll have many more to follow. Big expansion systems and the nuances of how loot works, these are things we're going to keep iterating on over the course of development, so I don't have a fully fleshed out answer to provide right now, but I want to give you a direction of how we're thinking. So one simple example first, professions. So right now, if you are a leatherworker or a blacksmith or a tailor and you want to make a pair of legs for yourself to wear using raid materials, you probably have a couple of stats in mind. Let's say you want crit haste pants. And so you're crafting, and whoops, you got mastery versatility pants. And you craft and craft and salvage and craft until you get the ones you want. Why does it have to be that way? What if you could take a crit gem and a haste gem and add them as optional materials to your craft and be guaranteed to get a crafted item with the secondary stats you want? So that's a small example. I realize that's not fixing professions, but we also do very much want to make the armor crafting professions relevant in a deeper way at Endgame. The weekly loot chest. Okay, is there any more hated example of RNG in World of Warcraft today? Right? You've done your Mythic Keystone, you filled your Conquest bar, you go to open this chest, and you're pulling from a loot table that has like 100+ items and hoping that you get the item that you want in the slot that you want with the stats that you want, and hopefully it's sockets and war forges or even Titan forges, and then maybe you can wear it. And most of the time, after the first few weeks of a season, you're probably walking away disappointed. And that sucks. Because the point of that is to be a major reward moment. It's a payoff for something that you did in the past week. And because of randomness, that's falling short. And it's an example of randomness gone too far. Randomness can be healthy, but there are places where it really is excessive. We're looking at pulling that back where possible. So what if instead of the loot chest, there was some other device, some contraption that measured the things that you'd done, that had some sense of how many dungeons you'd done, of what difficulty, or what your PvP rating was, or what bosses you'd bonus rolled. And it could instead materialize or create one of a list of items. And instead of clicking the chest and it spitting out a random item, you saw 5 or 6 options to choose among. And you could pick the one that you wanted most. So that's the kind of thing we're aiming for, with also some universally relevant fallback option if you don't like any of those items, so that you always at least feel like you made some progress towards some goal instead of walking away disappointed. Legendaries. So, okay, here's the thing. Legion legendaries were super fun. They were exciting items that transformed your gameplay. 99% of the complaints that we heard about Legion legendaries were in how they were obtained. Having the Pyroblast bracers was awesome. It made you play differently as a fire mage, and it was strong. Having Prydas, when the other fire mage in your raid group had the Pyroblast bracers, and having nothing you could do to change that, did not feel awesome. So we want to bring legendaries back in Shadowlands, but rather than have them be randomly obtained, we want them to be something that you can work towards actually crafting through your work in Torghast. You are earning access to legendary powers and then building the legendary that suits your gameplay style, working towards that goal. Then once you accomplish it, picking the next goal you want to work towards and doing so. Last, classes. So this is a little bit different from agency in other ways, but we've moved in the last few years pretty heavily away from broad class identity to a point where an arcane mage and a fire mage may have more that sets them apart than they have in common. And when you all picked the character you wanted to make, whether it was a week ago or 15 years ago, you chose to be a hunter or a rogue or a priest for some specific reason, not a marks hunter or a subtlety rogue or a discipline priest. And increasingly, that's been overly compartmentalized in ways that have restricted your ability to play the class in the way you might want to play the class. So we're going to talk about this a lot tomorrow at our deep dive panel. And this means, in some cases, taking abilities that have become spec-specific and bringing them back to being class-wide. In other cases, it means returning abilities that were taken away altogether. And so, talking about this, so sharing this at length tomorrow at our deep dive panel will be my colleague, Brian Holinka, or as I like to call him, Holinka the Unpruner. Okay, I'm gonna go kind of quickly since too much time left, but leveling. So you may notice that I've said max level a whole bunch of times in this presentation. I haven't said a number. And some of you who've made it to our demo may have noticed, what the heck, I'm level 50. You're level 50. So existing 120 characters are 50, everything scaled smoothly in between, and you will level from 50 to 60 in the Shadowlands. Why are we doing this? Why these numbers? Ultimately, it's about making the experience better paced. We have hundreds of hours of content that we've built in the game over the last 15 years. We don't want it to take hundreds of hours to get to max level. We want to speed up the rate at which you level to get into endgame and give you more freedom and options in how you do that. But if you're getting a level literally every 10 minutes along the way, that starts to feel a bit silly. So this number allows us to better match the content that we have that should be experienced on the way to max level, and also get back to a place where every level, every time you fill that bar, gives you something, because this is an RPG, and that's what levels should do. So we also have a brand new player zone to show off some of the best of modern World of Warcraft to new players. And on your alts, we want to give you the option to play through the storyline of any single expansion in its entirety to get you from 1 to 50. If you want to play through Pandaria, play through the whole thing, and then go to Shadowlands. Okay, a different type of agency of self-expression. I want to talk a little bit about visual character customization, character appearances. Right? Like, everyone here, you have this powerful connection to your WoW character. I've seen people spend way too long messing with hairstyles, picking the exact look, the exact facial expression, because that's your avatar in the game, that's your connection to the world. We always want to do better there. We always want to increase the fidelity. We want to give more options. And so in recent expansions, we've done things like add allied races or improve the combat animations. This time around, our focus is on improving the customization that's available to the original World of Warcraft races. Now, what I want to share with you, I'm going to share with you a few examples of our work in progress from a few WoW races, but the idea here is just to give more options than ever before so that you can actually look and feel like you want to feel, and different from the others around you who play the exact same race. So let's take a look at some of what's in store. Trolls. So for trolls, we want to give you options for different skin colors, hairstyles, tusk shapes, piercings, body paint, tattoos, and also amazing things like the ability to set your eye color different from the look of your face, because I don't know, it's 2020, the technology is finally there. What can I say? Dwarves. So similarly, you want some, you want that Wildhammer look, go for it. Different skin colors, hair colors, and more. Maybe you play an undead, a Forsaken, and you don't want all of your bony parts sticking out of your flesh. Or maybe you do. Up to you. And last but certainly not least in my examples, humans. Perhaps you play a human in World of Warcraft and wish that you could play a character that looks and feels a little bit more like you. We agree. So this is the tip of the iceberg. We have many more examples to come, and this is something really that's an endless process of improvement for us, but this is a first step. Finally, one more small thing. I mentioned earlier that Bolvar and his Death Knights are very important to this battle that awaits us, and so what better time to bolster the ranks of Death Knights than now? So in Shadowlands, everyone can be a Death Knight. Pandaren, Kul Tiran, Zandalari, Mechagnome, Volpera, go nuts. All right, that's all I got for now. Thank you so much for joining me on this whirlwind tour of Shadowlands. Lots more information tomorrow. So right here tomorrow, we'll have our deep dive panel at 11, just before noon, and then Q&A and developers' tales later in the day. Enjoy BlizzCon. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you all.
Thank you for attending World of Warcraft What's Next? Coming up, Hearthstone What's Next?